Welcome, friends. Let us together rebuild this world so that we may live, laugh, and lore.
I was going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
I can bring you in warm, or I can bring you in cold.
Not listening. I'm not listening.
Oh, that took.
Program loaded and ready.
Make it so.
Welcome to the Live, Laugh, Lore podcast. We're your host. I'm Tony.
And I'm Mark.
We got a really fun episode today, so we're going to do our first deep dive. This is just Mark and I kind of finding a topic in one of the different enterprises or franchises that we really like and drilling down a little bit deeper to kind of gain a better understanding of whether it's characters, history, or, the overall topic. But before we do that, we actually have our first official question to the podcast.
Ooh.
So this comes from a near and dear friend, Emma, who is first time, well, I wasn't going to say first time listener, but she's been a listener since, episode 1. And so we were talking back and forth, and she asked me a really good question. She goes, okay, so that intro sequence, she really enjoyed it, but she kind of didn't catch all the sound clips and kind of what was the inspiration behind those sound clips. So basically, that was just me. Mark and I have been deliberating. We're like, okay, we need a podcast. We'd like to do the intro. And I don't know why, but it really kind of struck me. So the very starting quote of it comes out and says,
"Friends,
let us together rebuild this world." Yeah, so that's actually Aragorn quote. Friends, let us together rebuild this world so we may share in the days of peace. Mm-hmm. I thought, hey, that's, let's kind of rebuild this world, to live, laugh, lore. And so the music was actually really inspired by the Home Depot music. So I went on free music, and I was just looking for kind of like this. If you actually listen to the Home Depot theme and our theme, it's like pretty tail and tail. But to go into the actual sound bites, what ended up happening was I wanted to gather something from each of those different franchises and kind of really, get a really classic sound bite, but it also kind of told a story and made some sense. So the first set of sound bites actually comes from Star Wars. First one, it's a classic. I was heading to Toshi Stations to pick up some power converters when Uncle Owen was trying to force Luke to do a little bit more extra on the harvest.
In Star Wars A New Hope, in the first movie.
Yep, fourth movie. The other one is The Mandalorian. I think it's episode 1, maybe 2, but that's just one of the
it's really early on
lines. Yeah. I can bring you in warm, or I can bring you in cold. It's like, whew.
Because he's a bounty hunter at that point, and he's collecting a bounty. And
which is it's just kind of funny because when you think about it, he brings them cold either way because he freezes them in carbonite in order to travel with them.
Yeah, so, that's true.
I mean, but the gist of it is you can get unfrozen with carbonite. You can't really get undead. So, or at least there's not anything. Well, we're not going the whole. All right, there's some Palpatine stuff and cloning.
Yeah.
All right, let's not go down that route. But then the next set is actually from Lord of the Rings. So that's Gollum saying, "Not listening, not listening." Or sorry, that's not Gollum. It's Schmeagol saying that. Schmeagol's saying that to Gollum.
Because he's got that whole internal struggle, because there's a different personality, which was created by the ring.
Yep.
And Schmeagol's actually a good, a creature at that point. He's good.
Yeah.
Gollum's not, and it's that internal fight.
That original personality's kind of coming through. And then that was in Two Towers, if I'm not mistaken. And then the last one was Fool of Tuk, which Fellowship. Yeah, I didn't think about that in the Mines of Moria when he, Well,
he says it a couple times, but I think that one's from the Mines of Moria.
I think so. And it's actually the sound clip that I use to bleep out Jenna's explicit language of
Game of
Thrones episode. So I thought that was funny. I still had the MP3 saved on my computer, and I was like, this is going to be perfect. Mm-hmm. And then the last set, both of them are from Star Trek. The program Loaded and Ready is actually from Gene Roddenberry's wife. So Gene Roddenberry's wife voices the computer in actually all the Star Treks, right?
For our listeners, who is Gene Roddenberry, Tony?
Oh, Gene Roddenberry is the creator of Star Trek. He is the George Lucas. As George Lucas is to Star Wars, Gene Roddenberry is that of Star Trek. Original creator, everything like that. But his wife was the voice of all the computer modules, so, program Loaded and Ready. In addition to, she actually made an in-person appearance because she's Deanna Troy's mom, Loxana Troy, in The Next Generation. So it's kind of cool to see, his wife get to the big screen, and it was a really cool moment. And then she also was in a couple Deep Space Nine episodes, but she's there. And then the last one is just Picard saying, "Make it so." That's classic. That's in most episodes. That's before they warp out of a system.
That's just his go-to line.
Yep, engage or make it so. Either one. So,
what we realized after the fact is that we forgot to include any Harry Potter quotes, which is another big franchise for us, as we did the Lupin episode too, right?
Yep. And that was actually, I was very excited. Because I was working on this behind the scenes. Mark and I talked about it a little bit and kind of where we wanted to go with it. I don't know. I just kind of got that, creative bug in me, and then I decided, hey, let's just really kind of work this out. And so I cleaned it all up. I had this old MP3 going. I showed it to Mark. I was super excited. And then, Mark, you're like, where's this Harry Potter?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, no. And then I tried to work it back in, and I couldn't find any good quotes. I was trying to think of, like, Mischief Managed. Just a couple good ones. I might revamp it later.
Leviosa, not Leviosa.
I should have done that. But another thing, too, is, like, we're right on the edge of just being light a little too long. So
Yeah, I think
we'll keep it
worked
going.
out. But
maybe if we do, like, seasons, I'll switch it up with more sound bites. But
maybe.
Or, yeah, we can always update it. But, yeah, like I said, this is my first pass. I'm also not a sound engineer. I literally did the bare minimum of finding MP3s and kind of cutting them up in a really certain way. So, nope, absolutely. So, Emma, we totally appreciate the question. Thank you so much for asking that. And, yeah, please, for all of our listeners, if you have any questions, even for stuff like that, we're kind of the behind the curtain on how we run the show, we can also answer those as well. So, it doesn't always have to be deep lore questions.
Yep, we love any sort of question. So, please send them our way, and we'd be happy to answer them.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, so now let's kind of get back into the swing of things. So once again, appreciate the question. Now we're going to go into our main topic, which is the deep dive into the Knights of Ren.
Yes.
After this topic, though, we're going to talk a little bit. So my wife and I actually just got back from a trip in New Zealand. Super fun. We'd love to talk about it. So we're going to have a little bit of a sprinkling of Lord of the Rings in here at the end of the episode. But so let's get right back on track. Let's go talk the main topic.
So the Knights of Ren, how we're going to kind of break this up a little bit is we both just split up the research since we both wanted to talk about it. So, Tony, you looked up, the philosophy, weapons, and membership of the Knights of Ren, correct?
Yep, exactly.
And then I looked up kind of the timeline and the history of them, what we don't know, kind of what we do know through the movies. Mm-hmm. And we'll get into it. So I think you're going to go ahead and get started, basically.
Yeah, if you don't mind. So,
yeah.
So it's kind of funny. The reason why we kind of drew this to it is, one, we wanted to be able to talk about the sequel movies without going on a 3-hour rant, and we thought this would be the most proactive and effective way of doing that, because this is a group of members that got very little screen time, but when you look at them, there's like, wow, there's something deeper here. You know what I mean?
They're also cool.
Oh, they're super cool. Yeah. I mean, it's like, whoa, what is going on here? And I think what really kind of sparked my interest was, where's the line, right? When you look at these characters, you're going, okay, where's the line? Are they Sith? Are they not? It's kind of like the classic when someone's like, oh, Darth Maul was a Sith. Internally, I want to answer with a 20-minute response of being like, okay, well, not really.
Right.
You know, the Darth Banian, the rule of two wasn't necessarily there. That you're seeing the perspective of Jedi, and the Jedi are calling him a Sith, but that's not really he's not really a Sith.
Right.
And I think we're going to have a whole nother episode dedicated to that. So, Philosophy of the Sith, I think we're going to have an episode on that. It'd be perfect. We can go a little bit more deeper. But let's kind of, once again, I'm reeling myself back in. So sorry. I'm literally conductor. I built these tracks, and I keep going off the track.
Yeah.
So sorry. But so one quote that really kind of solidified it for me, answering that exact question of who these people are relative to, the Sith mantra, is actually a quote from Darth Sidious. And so it's from a book that's called Star Wars, The Secrets of the Sith. And the quote is, each of the Knights of Ren harbors the shadow of the dark side within them. But unlike the Sith, they are not trained to harness that connection to its fullest potential. So it's his kind of way of saying, like, they refer to, like, the shadow. So instead of saying the dark side, they're like, oh, they're in the shadow of the dark side, meaning they're force sensitive, they're tapping into it, but it's not like they're going full in. They're not having that full connection. They're not doing force lightning. They're not doing all this other stuff, but they're still broaching that way less than, the normal Jedi side.
Because they don't really use the Force. They're
force sensitive,
which is very different. Yeah.
Perfect. And Mark, thank you for bringing that in, because that's the first rule of membership. So membership 1 is just they must be force sensitive. Even when I say must be force sensitive, when we were reading this, and by the way, most of our research kind of started with Wikipedia, and then whenever we had a link that was kind of more exciting, we kind of go down that link, and so we really played the Wikipedia rabbit hole.
And that's Wookieepedia, like the race that Chewbacca is. Not Wikipedia, Wookiee.
Wikipedia.
Dedicated solely to Star Wars lore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if you ever have a spare 5 minutes in a day and you're like, what kind of lore can I see today? You can literally just look up a random page of Wikipedia that day, and it generates a random page every single day. So you can look it up and, kind of go down your own personal rabbit hole if you'd like. But so the reason why I mention this is like force sensitive is they say they will take non-force sensitive people, but they'll end up taking them out pretty quick.
Yeah.
And that actually gets to the next point, which is really, in order to be included, you have this force sensitivity trial. But in addition, you have another trial that basically is you find a worthy target to kill. And by completing it, they call it a good death. So virtually, you find someone who you can go toe-to-toe with that's you are personally choosing to eliminate this person.
A sacrifice of some sort.
Correct. Yeah. And so, once again, it's kind of like you're willing to choose to kill that target, and they make it really specific. It can't just be by circumstance. So, for example, if you're navigating in a ship and you take out their engines and then they spiral off and hit an asteroid, they technically did not count that because, you're just affecting the environment. Yeah. They want you to have the no joke, fingers on the pulse, so to speak. So there can't be any accidents. And also, if they went through this, they either fought and won, or they didn't complete it, which then they would just die by their own brothers. The brothers would seek them out and basically say, okay, we're going to prune you out. You're not strong enough. Mm-hmm. Or they would die in battle. And if they died in battle, once again, it's a good death. It's kind of their way of filtering out the group, right? The rule of two from Darth Bane is really, almost coming through here. There's not a limit on it, but basically what they're trying to do is they're trying to make sure that the strongest survive. It's also kind of important to talk about when we talk about membership is that we need to go through and say, okay, well, there's kind of two different eras that they talk about the Knights of Ren, one of which is Imperial, the other one is New Republic. So Imperial is their leader is called Ren. They just call him Ren. There's no other names. They also say his leader's name, which, by the way, it's really funny in Wikipedia. You can keep clicking. Yeah. Guess what his leader's name was? Ren. Yeah. Guess what his leader's name was?
Ren. It's Ren. The title was kind of transferred along, right?
Correct. And so that's why when I saw the Knights of Ren as just a moviegoer without doing this deep dive, I just saw they got it from Kylo's last name. I always thought Kylo's name was Kylo Ren. But that's not the case at all. His name is Kylo. It's Kylo Solo. But when he joined the group, they nominated him after his predecessor, right? The real Ren. When that guy died, they then made him the master, which was then they called him Kylo Ren.
Well, and I'll get into that because that's part of the...
Oh, perfect. The history? Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah, I was just going through membership, and I was like, this is going to be kind of nice. But yeah, so another one is, so now we have this New Republic era where Kylo Ren is the leader. They have their own little group, and honestly, it's just a group of 5 people, which is pretty crazy. Well, 6 including Kylo, but you have Vikrul, who is, they call him the Harvester, Reaper of the Fallen, and Targeter of Souls.
What a name.
I was like, golly, that was sweet to research. The whole point is that he kind of uses it. It's almost like vampirism, where unless there's lycanthropy. I remember that from the other episode. But no, it's really like vampirism because what's ended up happening is that he uses the dark side specifically to kind of instill fear, but also take the life force from his enemies. So it's pretty sweet. We also have Cardo, who just a walking arsenal armor. Kind of imagine like the Mandalorian, Jon Favreau's character in the Mandalorian, just this huge, bulky guy.
Yeah.
Coming in, and he's really helping everyone kind of, situate their gear, which I will bring him up in a couple minutes. We also have Trudgen, and his name is just Trophy Collector. So basically, after all of his battles, he just keeps different trophies. Kind of like how Boba Fett kept the Wookiee braids from the Wookiees he was killing. If you notice on Boba Fett's, shoulder, he has Wookiee braids. It's just like it's trophies in that regard, right? Whether it's their weapons or pieces of their armor, he just kind of stitches them together. So he's kind of like this menagerie of just trophies or the wins that he's received.
Interesting.
Yep. And then you have Ushar. Ushar he's pretty crazy. So he's kind of like this interrogator where he wants them to grovel for mercy. So when he backs someone up against like a corner, he's just trying to get information out of them, and they literally defined him as the speed in which he kills you is based on how he respects you. So for example, if someone came in and was like, you know what, I'm not scared of you, like everything is fine, even if you strike me down, all is going to be good, he would actually kill them quicker because he respected them. They're looking death in the face and kind of meeting it with some gusto. Whereas if you were kind of begging for mercy, he was going to make it last a lot longer. So that's a pretty sadistic but interesting fact about Ushar. Kruruk, I might be mispronouncing some of these names, so apologize.
All the Star Wars names are a little,
Yeah, I should have put them through a Google Translator or something. But he's a resident sniper, long-distance marksman. And then we have Aplek, who is a hunter and trapper, which is kind of interesting. if you're kind of noticing, there's a little bit of Bad Batch energy in here as well, because you kind of have this sniper, you have this hunter and trapper, which literally his name is Hunter.
Yeah, everyone has their own roles, right?
Yep. And then it's just kind of funny. When I saw that, I was like, I wonder if they meant to do that, or was Bad Batch out by this time? And I was trying to bring down the actual dates where they updated Wikipedia, but I wasn't finding anything really rock solid. I couldn't figure out if they're kind of inspired by each other.
Yeah.
Not putting blame that anyone copied each other.
Right.
You know, these are just kind of standard
I think the Clone
roles.
Wars TV show came out before the sequels, right? So the Bad Batch would have been around because
It was an episode. I forgot that there was a one episode in Clone Wars that spinned off into a full series.
Because everybody loved the concept
Clone Force,
of them.
Yeah, Clone Force 99. Oh, that's cool. Oh, I didn't even think, Mark, you know what? Thank you.
You're welcome.
That makes me feel a lot better.
Yeah.
See, even in the own podcast, live, we can solve these issues. So that's kind of like the membership, where we're going over what kind of makes a member and also kind of the resounding members of the New Republic times. So let's kind of talk about the philosophy. I think I'm going to drop another quote here because once again, it kind of resolves that question of what do you actually believe in, right? You're kind of not the Sith, but you're in the shadow of the Sith. What's going on here? And so the quote is actually from Ren. You can put whatever title after that if you want, but it just literally says Ren. Whether it's Ren 2, Ren 5, or Ren 27, we don't know.
Yeah.
But so the Ren doesn't stop to worry about what it's burning or the right or wrong of it or the goals that it even might achieve. The Ren just is. It lives and it consumes and it doesn't apologize. It is its nature and nothing else. So it's kind of a mysterious quote of just saying it is what it is. Like we're just going out. We do what we want. We kind of encounter these things and we're just moving forward, kind of bulldozing through. And I just thought that was kind of interesting because it's a very flexible lifestyle that's not exactly bound by a code, but yet it's a way of life so much so that your brothers can kill you if they feel like you're not living up to that code.
Yeah.
So there's no line here that says thou shall X, Y, and Z. It's more or less like, do we believe you're living this lifestyle to the fullest? Are you making the Knights of Ren to that next level? How can we keep progressing?
Sounds pretty high stakes, if you ask me.
Very high stakes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a dog-eat-dog world, and they're wearing milk-bone underwear.
Yes.
You know, not good. And then I thought this was also really funny. So right when you think it can't get even more confusing, because another thing, too, is like when the leadership comes up, they don't add on any title. Kylo was kind of an exception. They just called him Kylo Ren. But a lot of them just call themselves Ren, and they let it go. Mm-hmm. But right when you think it can't get more confusing, the iconic lightsaber, which, oh, by the way, all these people don't have lightsabers. Most of them actually do not have lightsabers.
Yeah, they have different kind of weapons, right?
Exactly. But there is one lightsaber that gets passed around, much like the dark saber for the Mandalorians. There is one lightsaber that gets passed around, and guess what the lightsaber's name is?
Ren.
It's Ren. It's freaking
Everything
Ren.
is Ren.
I was like, really? You couldn't think of something else? Like, oh, it's so cool. But
did the creators of this group just get lazy and just be like, meh, Ren?
Yeah, Disney's only giving us $1.50.
Yeah.
Well, Ren, it's fine. But I just thought it was so funny because you're reading the lightsaber and it's actually like pretty comical. If you go to Wikipedia, look at that lightsaber. There's like 2 paragraphs of being like, the energy from the kyber crystals, it's expanding and it's fusing and it's doing all this stuff so much. There's so much energy built up. It has to build the cross guards just to exhaust that energy and all this sweet long thing. And it's like, and its name is Ren. It's like, what the? You thought of everything else but that name? But it's still good. I'm not, no complaint there. I just thought it was once again pretty funny. So the Ren of the Knights of Ren wields Ren.
Yes, the lightsaber.
Exactly. And once again, the reason why they do a lightsaber is kind of hyperfixating, and it's kind of like the exemplar of the way of life. Mm-hmm. The wielder of this lightsaber is our leader. It's our Ren. We need to keep moving forward, get better, and we just need to kind of consume and explode out and do what we need to do. Yeah, it's kind of going back through and saying that they just want a really strong affinity to the shadow. So that's kind of like the last piece I have for that philosophy. Now going on to the equipment, I think the equipment's really important. We talked a little bit about the equipment, saying that the lightsaber, but more importantly, everyone else has handcrafted armor. So it's unique for every single user. It's not like they have some uniform that they can just come up and say, oh, hey, there's the Knights of Ren. You just know by one, the way that they're grouping, the way the fear that instills into the group, and also just the signature black. Everything else, there's no other commonality. It's not like it's a helmet thing. It's not like anything else. So I will say, though, They do all wear helmets, but they're not the same helmets, but they do wear helmets. And the reason behind that is not only is it kind of this more fearsome character, but it's almost like the Scarecrow logic. Are you a big DC guy at all? You know, Batman?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Okay, so Cillian Murphy's character, the Scarecrow, right?
Yeah.
The whole point is that he puts on like that burlap sack, and all of a sudden, like you see your worst fears with it, with the gas. Kind of the same logic here. They're not using gas, but they're basically saying that if I become masked, or I'm masked and I'm faceless, if I do some atrocities or anything like that, when people see us, there's no personality to this. It's just, like it's a war machine. It's going forward. There's nothing to it. And so what they'll do psychologically is they'll put their worst fears onto you. And I was like, dang, I really like that.
That's intense, yeah.
That's pretty cool. These are just solely used, just not for anonymity, for they can get hit or anything. Just more or less like when we do these acts, that makes it that much worse.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool. And, I think the very last thing is, like I said, it's unique to the users. So there's an armor. So we have Cardo, who's kind of helping out with both the armory as well as the weapons for them. We have some other people, right? We have Trudgeon, who's doing the trophies, but it's just, once again, expressing a weird individuality that you don't really see often with Sith users, but once again, they're the shadow of the Sith, not the Sith.
Yeah.
I just thought it was all unique.
The shadow.
Yeah. So they're like just butting up against Sith mantra and Sith qualities and kind of getting on that side of things, but at the same time, too, they're very different in these quick regards. But yeah, that's kind of my couple points. What about you, Mark? So you kind of mentioned that when I was talking about some of the people, there's some history behind that. So
Yes.
I'd love to hear kind of more.
So this is just kind of the overall timeline. That's what I focused on. So before we get into this, I want to make the note that in Star Wars, their dates are based around the Battle of Yavin.
Oh, BBY.
Yeah, BB or ABY. Before the Battle of Yavin or after the Battle of Yavin.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
So the Battle of Yavin is when they destroy the first Death Star at the end of A New Hope. That is that event. So when I talk about 19 BBY, 5 ABY, that's the date reference tracker.
Nice.
So there's different periods. I mean, the main periods that we're going to talk about is the Imperial era, which is 19 BBY through 5 ABY.
Gotcha. Yeah, so basically the Star Wars movies.
Yeah.
The original movies.
The original, yeah. But that's kind of the time frame there. So really, the Empire was only really in control for 26 years.
Wow.
And we can get in. That's a whole nother.
I didn't even. I thought it was a lot longer.
Because Han makes it seem like the Jedi are people have long forgotten, but 26 years is really not that long of a time.
That's actually, that's actually insane.
The rebellion that we saw really takes place during that last 5 years, right? I mean, that was the big event. The 0 ABY, that was the turning point through 5, right?
Yep.
Then the New Republic is also 20 years, 5 through 25 ABY, and then 25 is when kind of the First Order shows up. So another 25, 26 years, right? It's not a whole lot of time, actually, right?
No, we're talking span of,
quarter centuries.
Yeah.
So, anyway, origins before really the Imperial era. The Knights of Ren have been around forever, but they really kind of formed into the group we know in the Imperial era. Before that, they were just kind of marauders who pillaged worlds. They didn't really kind of have a philosophy. People always just kind of knew that.
Yep.
They've been around forever. Right. And
there's actually a lot of these, and a lot of it is like you have the Darth Revan cults. You have all these different cults and splinter groups of the dark side. And I'm assuming this is one of those groups.
Yeah, correct.
That it kind of has this overall following, but not necessarily a solidified force in the world where people are going, oh, those are these people.
Right. Exactly.
More or less whispers, right?
Exactly what it is. Yes, more whispers. They're really not that strong until the Imperial era. There's a lot of turnover in the Knights of Ren, Tony. I'll tell you what.
I can only imagine. Well, that's why there's so many names.
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of like, actually, it's in like Skyrim, I named my horse Reggie. Just I thought it was funny. But yeah, you just Reggie 1, Reggie 2, Reggie 3, Reggie 4,
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not saying they're expendable, but.
Yes, exactly. So they finally kind of formed, and the first real Ren, not the first real one, but the one that kind of commanded authority was the one that came to the Imperial era. Now, during that time, they kind of operated as their own. On the Night Buzzard is the name of their ship. You didn't mention that in the equipment.
No,
section.
I didn't. Yeah, I didn't think about doing ships. I was just focused on the people.
So they've been using the Night Buzzard forever. Anyway, so the biggest thing in the Imperial era, they worked very closely with Lady Kira and Crimson Dawn.
Oh, okay.
So during that time, during the Empire, the Knights were scared of the Empire because they knew the Empire was coming after all Force-sensitive people because they wanted to be the dominant people in the galaxy.
Oh, yeah, you're getting Inquisitors, you're doing all that fun stuff.
Yes, so they knew they took out the Jedi. They knew they took out the Night Sisters, right? And so they were worried they were next. So Lady Kira, who is running Crimson Dawn now after Maul had been removed, also wanted to be the dominant force in the galaxy. Now, everyone knew the Emperor as Emperor Palpatine from his time in the Senate, but not a lot of people knew he was the Sith Lord. Lady Kira did, because she worked with Maul, and Maul knew who he was.
Oh, yeah.
So she knew the Sith was ruling the galaxy through the Empire. So she wanted to end that. And so what she tried to do is she pretty much created a syndicate war to try to distract the Empire. And what she did, she got the Hutts involved, she got the Knights involved, a bunch of other bounty hunters involved. Kind of just to disrupt while she could carry out her plan and try to take out Sidious herself.
Oh, wow. Just like create noise on the periphery and... Yeah.
So it was kind of cool that, just a fun solo, how she got fun story on how she got the Hutts involved. She kicked this thing off with the auction of Han Solo. So...
Oh.
When Han is frozen in carbonite, he isn't taken directly to Jabba's palace. Boba Fett stops at a moon, on the moon of Nalhutta?
Oh, Nalhutta, yep.
Which is the Hutt planet. And Crimson Dawn and Lady Kira raid his ship and steal the carbonite Han Solo.
Oh, okay.
So she takes it to some Outer Rim territory and have an auction, and she invites the Empire. She invites, all these people. Kind of be like, look what I did. I'm Crimson Dawn now, and I'm going to be, in charge here.
I didn't realize that many people had beef with Han. I thought it was really just Jabba the Hutt.
Yeah.
Like, I knew he owed them quite a bit of credits, but I didn't realize more people were interested.
Well, the Empire were really interested because Vader was going to use it as, bait for Luke. And
oh, this is after... Okay, sorry. This is...
Because he's frozen in carbonite, yeah.
Correct. Yep, sorry.
So
I should have thought about the movies a little bit harder there, yeah.
Yeah. Long story short, Jabba put 1 million credits on the table, and it's like, Solo's mine kind of thing.
Okay.
So he won the auction. Vader shows up and was like, not on my watch, and pretty much just like, I'm reclaiming Solo. He is mine. The Hutts are really upset about this, but Jabba doesn't want to start a war between the Hutts and the Empire, so he goes, just let it be. Lady Kira was like, well, he was going to pay me, therefore you need to pay me, Darth Vader. And he goes, I'm not doing that.
Okay.
So she fights Darth Vader.
Is she a Force wielder?
No. But she had learned some lightsaber skills. She wasn't using a lightsaber, but she had learned some fighting skills from Maul.
Okay.
Maul
That's not... If it was Cad Bane, I'd feel a little bit better, because I'm like, okay. I mean, he's gone toe-to-toe with Jedi and lived to see it, but a little bold.
So he hesitated. He almost killed her, but he could sense, because Chewie, Luke, and Leia had figured out about the auction. They were going to the planet to try to save Han as well. Vader senses him, hesitates, and Kira gets away.
Oh.
So he goes to confront Luke, right?
Mm.
While he's doing that, he tells his guards to take Han back to his ship. He gets ambushed by Boba Fett, who had come to reclaim his property.
Well, now he knows that Hutt's going to give him $1 million. He's probably...
The Hutts decide to then launch an all-out attack on the Executor, which is the
Darth Vader's
ship, Star Destroyer.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're attacking the ship, Darth Sidious kind of contacts Vader and was like, yo, you just need to go eliminate the Hutts. So he lets Luke go, and he literally kills every single Hutt on board their ship, which was the entire Hutt Grand Council except Jabba the Hutt. And now the whole entire Hutt race has beef with the Empire.
Yeah.
Now Jabba does too.
Yeah, but he's the last probably remaining.
Correct.
Or
Now he's the
family.
sole leader of the Hutt nation. Anyway, long story short, Boba Fett steals Han back and then was able to sell him. And then time.
Normal story progresses.
But that's how Lady Kira sets it up, that the Hutts and now have beef with the Empire. So that whole thing's progressing. What she needs to do now is she's trying to get an ancient Sith artifact, and this is where the Knights of Ren come in, called the Fermata Cage, which allows you to just pretty much freeze people in time. I mean, you can do whatever you want with them, right?
Kind of like Carbonite, but yeah, sure.
Yeah, kind of, but you can just stab them there or whatever.
When you say freezes
frozen,
around,
yeah,
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, to unlock it, it's locked somewhere, some distant planet. You need a screaming key is what it's called.
I was going to say skeleton keys, Skyrim, yeah.
Which is, it vibrates and kind of tells you how to get there. This key is locked in a vault in Vader's fortress on Mustafar.
Love it.
So she hires the Knights of Ren to infiltrate Vader's fortress. Because they're scared of the Empire, if they don't do anything, they know they're going to die, so they agree to work with her. Plus, Ren, at the time, thought they would be living legends if they managed to break into Vader's fortress and come out alive to tell the tale. So they do it, and apparently it was like super easy to get in, and they were worried, and then all of a sudden Vader shows up and pretty much tries to slaughter the Knights of Ren, and he kills one of them. He kills Fyodor is his name, but he's one of the Imperial ones. So they barely make it out alive. Vader, it's funny actually when you're reading the story, the reason Fyodor is killed because they go through and find all of like Vader's Bacta tanks, and Fyodor thought it was funny if he'd spit in all of them, just to like contaminate it.
Yep.
So Vader kind of just shows up and just like stabs him in the back. It was just like, Anyway, so they get the key after Ren fights Vader and almost dies. And I guess Sidious was furious and was very upset that Vader allowed them to leave with the key because they were not Sith. Vader and Sidious both saw the Knights of Ren as scum, unworthy of the dark side of the Force, essentially.
Correct.
So they're very upset. So because they have the key, they help Lady Kira get the Fermata cage, which was on. They had to protect some, like the archivist, which was some person that Lady Kira was working with, and she was an expert on Sith lore and where this thing would most likely be. Mm-hmm. No one's seen it in millennia. They get the Fermata cage, but they lose Basra, another one of his Knights of Ren. Mm-hmm. So Ren is very upset now. He's lost 2 people in Lady Kira's crusade and almost pretty much backs out of helping her. There's not much more in the Imperial era. We just know that Syndicate Wars end with Crimson Dawn getting completely destroyed, and they decide to spare the Knights of Ren if they completely agree to, be their servants, essentially.
I see.
So they do that. Now, after Luke overthrows the Emperor, the Knights go into hiding, and they don't come back until somehow Palpatine returned.
Allegedly.
So until that point, there's just nothing on them.
Okay. Wow.
Just because no one's written anything about them yet.
Yeah. So
in the New Republic era, they talk about, there's a couple stories really leaning into the philosophy of there needs to be a personal sacrifice. Mm-hmm. So there's a new Ren now in charge at this point in time. They reconnect with Sidious, and Sidious sent him out because there's these 2 brothers that are Force sensitive that he thinks would be a good fit for the Knights of Ren. They're criminals, and they're currently being arrested, so they basically show up and they eliminate the whole security team. And they're the brothers Karst and Phelan. Karst is much more in tune with the Force and a better lightsaber, better fighter.
Yeah, better warrior.
Phelan's fine, he's just not as strong as his brother. But anyway, so they both were super excited to join the Knights of Ren, so Ren said, all right, well, you need to do a personal sacrifice. First one to kill your brother is in. Phelan, without hesitation, kills his brother. Ren was impressed, but because Phelan was the weaker brother, he was disappointed, so he kills Phelan, and so none of them are part of the Knights of Ren.
Yeah.
Just because
doesn't that make sense?
They don't cut it, right?
Yeah. And but I should mention it before, in that, victory in battle, the good death, that whole, thing, it doesn't have to be a personal sacrifice, but they definitely like it more. Mm-hmm. And that's why Kylo, once again chose Ben Solo. That was a pretty big turning point.
Yeah. So a little later on,
or Ben Solo, sorry.
Ben Solo.
Sorry. Yeah, Han Solo. Ben Solo kills Han Solo. There it is.
So this little section is called the Battle of the Legends. But the Knights are traveling around on Palpatine's orders. They ended up on this Outer Rim world called Elfrona, mm-hmm. which is an ancient Jedi outpost dating to the High Republic era. There are a bunch of holocrons, special weapons, just Jedi artifacts in general. So they wanted them. But Luke Skywalker, his sole purpose was to rebuild the Jedi, and he sees himself as the sole protector. So he had heard about it too. At this time, he's got a young apprentice, his nephew, Ben Solo.
Nice, yeah.
So they confront. This battle sounds absolutely epic. They had a guide with them, so Luke told Ben Solo to protect the guide, and Luke takes on all 6 of the Knights of Ren at once.
Jeez.
But he didn't want to kill any of them. But he knocked all of them out except Ren himself. Ren gave up. He realized that he was not going to be able to defeat Master Luke Skywalker. But he looked at Ben Solo. He ordered all the knights to retreat, and he could sense the shadow inside Ben. He takes his helmet off, Ren, and gives it to Ben and says, "Seek me out when you are ready to join the knights." and then he leaves on the night buzzard with all the Knights of Ren.
Dang, plant the seed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
with a young Ben Solo. So after that, as we know, Luke gets visions that Ben's going to fall, and has, in a moment of weakness, decides that he should kill him.
Which is so funny because, God, Ryan Johnson. All right, we're not going to go into it, but
No,
the whole
I know,
point
but
is that
yeah.
he literally spared all the Knights of Ren there, but wanted to
Yeah.
kill his... Oh, my goodness.
And so...
All right. That's what happens. You get a director who doesn't understand the source material
Right.
and writes
But
this.
he understands the error in his ways, but too late as Ben was waking up and saw his uncle trying to kill him, right? And this just sends him into a emotional roller coaster, right?
Yep, absolutely.
So Ben, feeling betrayed by the one person he could trust, fled, and he burned down Luke's temple, killed a bunch of the students, whole thing, right? So he fled to a space station after that, and guess who was waiting for him at the space station?
Ren, baby.
No, Snoke.
Oh, okay.
Snoke
all right.
had,
Once again, who the heck's Snoke? Who
yeah,
knows?
right?
Yeah.
And Snoke was trying to collect him. Kylo's feeling betrayed by Luke, right? And now he had all this.
He's got a rebound. He's got to find a rebound
Right.
master.
But he had all this heavy expectations of being the nephew of the last Jedi and the grandson of the Chosen One. Left him completely... He doesn't feel like a Jedi, but he doesn't feel like a Sith. And Snoke's not a Sith, so he's like, I can teach you the ways, kind of thing. So he renounced his Jedi ways and told Snoke he wanted to be one of the Knights of Ren. So his first test was, Snoke's like, I'm not going to tell you where they are, but if you find them, I will put in a good word for you. So Ben decides to go back to that planet, Elphrona, because that's the last time he saw him, and he uses the helmet that Ren gave him to kind of make a connection with him. And Ren says, I'm waiting for you at this cantina on this planet. Come meet me here. Once he's done talking with Ren, he turns around, and 3 students that he was really close with at Luke's Academy had followed him there, and were going to try to kill him.
Oh, wow.
One of them was a pretty good friend of his. I don't know. They were rivals. I mean, they were always competing with each other.
Yep.
So he was about to kill her, but hesitated. Another guy in the group thought Ben had killed him, so he launched his lightsaber at Ben Solo. He blocks it, and it goes back, and it kills his friend.
Oh, wow. Indirect, yeah.
Indirect, but his friend's dead. And so he books it and leaves, and he just, yeah. So he meets up with Ren, and he tells Ren what happened, and Ren is trying to think if that killing counts.
Ooh.
But he deems it an accidental death, like you were saying.
Yeah.
Therefore, it does not count.
Guys.
And therefore, you are not ready to join the Knights of Ren. But Snoke told Ren to give him a chance and give him a trial run.
Oh.
But Ren's
so
upset about it, but Ben is in it. And
so there's a little bit of, not nepotism, but, hey.
Yes.
Put in a good word for my boy.
So, like I said, he's upset about it, but he tells one of the other Knights of Ren to give him some black robes so he looks
Part of the group.
Yeah, right. So they go on their first mission. They end up going to this planet called Mind Moon.
Love it.
Which, it's a moon that has a mine on it.
Wow. Better. Couldn't have thought of it, yeah.
And I don't know what artifact, but they're trying to steal some artifact, right?
I swear, this New Republic era. I know I said I wasn't going to do this,
Yeah.
but this New Republic era just makes me want to cry.
So the inhabitants know where it is, but they're not giving it up to Ren. Ren's like, I'm just going to kill you guys. Solo, trying to make sure the inhabitants stay alive, uses telepathy on them and discovers the location of the artifact. Ren's like, impressive, and then kills all the inhabitants anyway.
Oh, wow, just as a show of force, yeah.
So Ty and Vo, who are the other 2 students that were not killed on Elphrona, show up. They've got nowhere to go. They're just trying, because Luke's gone now, right?
Yep. He just abandoned it.
So he's like, we just have to kill Ben Solo. So they show up in the scene and they start attacking the Knights of Ren. Ty fought Solo while Vo rescued some of the miners from Ren. So he didn't kill them all. Ren was watching Solo's fight with Ty and saw that he wasn't giving it his all because Ben still hadn't made up his mind if he wanted to kill his friend or not. So Ren was displeased with Solo's weakness, so he grabs Ty and snaps his neck right in front of Solo. Ben Solo is now enraged by seeing his friend die. He let the shadow, his inner darkness, fill him, and he attacked Ren.
Wow.
It was so powerful, as we see it similar in the 9th movie, that both his mother Leia and Snoke felt the shadow consume him from across the galaxy. Solo ended up beating Ren and killed him with Ty's lightsaber.
Whoa, okay.
He then took the lightsaber, and used it to kill Vo and the rest of the inhabitants, just leaving no one alive pretty much on the planet except the other Knights.
Yep.
Yeah. The Knights knelt before Solo and dubbed him his new leader, and he takes up the mantle of Kylo Ren. But he throws the Ren away and leaves it on that planet and makes a new lightsaber out of his ties and bows. And that's the cross.
That's the crossguard one? Oh, okay. I must have got confused because earlier, I just assumed that crossguard one was the Ren. Okay, because they do have a really long, elegant explanation of his lightsaber, or meaning Kylo Ren's lightsaber. But the Ren, they just call it the Ren lightsaber. Yep. I just assumed it was the same.
And he leaves it on Mind Moon. He doesn't even want it.
What?
Yep.
Okay, well, that's kind of upsetting.
So, the reason he chose Kylo Ren, but the reason the creators chose that is because it was trying to be sneaky. Kylo comes from the Latin word Kylum, which means sky, and it was supposed to be homage to his heritage of Skywalker. So that's why he has the title of Kylo. The reason Ben Solo chose it is because he still wasn't sure of all of his decisions. He's not a Jedi, he's not a Sith, and he's rebranding the Knights of Ren. That's kind of,
a little movie magic.
Yeah. So then the rest is just what we see in the movies. We see him champion the First Order. He's working with Hux and Snoke. He gets fed up with Snoke and kills him, and now and then Strong's arm Hux to be the leader of the First Order.
Yeah. Bill Weasley? Charles Weasley? No, Bill Weasley.
Bill, yeah.
Yeah,
we don't
Bill
see
Weasley. Bill. I said Charlie. I confused you. Sorry about that. Yeah, no, it is Bill Weasley. Yeah.
So his personal sacrifice was fulfilled because he thought he needed to kill Han. After he did it, at the end, spoiler, at the end of the 7th movie. It's been long enough, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was about to say, plus those movies I wouldn't worry
So
about.
he was encouraged to do so to fulfill his commitment to the Knight of Ren by Snoke.
Gotcha.
After killing Han, he feels even more empty inside, and that's why he decides to kill Snoke, because it was not helping him. Now he killed his father. Now he's got really nothing, so now he's just going to lean into the First Order thing, right?
Yeah, this is only kind of vector of attack to move forward.
Yes. So as we see in the 8th and the 9th, he uses the Knights to really just conquer the galaxy. I mean, he just goes on missions with them, uses them to get the holocron.
Jedi artifact, yeah.
Rey helps him redeem, and,
or Sith artifact, sorry.
Yeah. And he has that memory of Han Solo that brings him back to the light. And then later in the movie, he kills the rest of the Knights. And then that is the end of the Knights of Ren.
Put a bow on it. Wow. Yeah, Mark, do you have any other notes or anything like that? You kind of want to do anything with this deep dive?
I think that's it. I think we hit all the major topics. So if you wanted to roll into your New Zealand trip and give us a little update on that.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be probably a pretty quick update, but I just kind of wanted to talk with everybody and just say, hey, this was just a trip of a lifetime. And hopefully you'll see more of these pictures, because as I make more memes of our episodes, I've already done it before, but I put Mark's head on Jenna's body. So I think the next Lord of the Rings episode, I've got a lot of Lord of the Rings content with Jenna in it, so I'll just put your head. It'll be pretty good.
It's perfect.
So basically you went to New Zealand too, if you really want to think about
exactly.
it, right? There's a little movie magic there. I mean, but yeah, no. So it was super fun. Totally enjoy it. I think the only negative thing that I'd even bring up is the fact that your biological clock gets so messed up. Travel days are a little tough because it's like, we're from Midwest, Ohio area, so going from Ohio to Texas to Auckland. So it's a pretty long travel day.
Yep.
And then also your whole time is just distorted. Because, like, when I got back, I'd wake up at, 1 a.m. just starving. Because that's, their dinner time.
Yeah.
Because just the time change. The biological stuff was kind of funny, just getting used to. But it was such a great and fun trip. And so we went to Bag End. So all these different Hobbiton, we went to Bag End, that is in Hobbiton. But we saw all these different ones where we took tours. We were on these huge trucks that went through the river. So when all the Nazguls comes out, right? And she says that, spell and gets the roaring river and sweeps all the Nazguls out to the water.
Speaks in Elvish.
Yep. That we went to that place. We actually drove through it with trucks and stuff, and it was cool just to constantly hear these little things and little factoids about it, and just the scenes were beautiful. I mean, oh my goodness, we kept, as a group, I went, myself, my wife, and then 2 other people. We just kept going, when's the screensaver going to turn off? It was just so beautiful, and I can understand why they went to that country and went, wow, this is Middle Earth. There is so much there. And so just as a FYI, any mountain range that is in any of the movies is going to be the South Island. South Island is less populated, way more beautiful, awesome stuff. North Island, a little bit more populated, but that's more the Shire, the rolling hills. There's the amount of sheep. Dragon. Oh, yeah. The amount of sheep that you see is just it's kind of like us in Ohio. There's more corn in Ohio than people. Much like there, they have way more sheep than people.
Yeah.
So it was a pretty cool thing to see. And the fact that now, even when we were on the flight back, I would start rewatching the movies, and it's like, oh my goodness, like we were there. Like in the background where, it's the Rohirrim and you're kind of riding across, that was, the North Island, and you're seeing this mountain pass. And you're like, oh, that's the South Island. We went right by that. So it was really fun too, because I think they know there's a couple of different types of people who go on these tours. You have the just people who just want to see the beautiful scenes and don't think much of it. You have people who, I've seen Lord of the Rings once or twice. And then you have people like us who probably watch it every year on the year. Yeah. We live it, we off it, we lore it. And so it was really funny because there was things where these tour guides were just like amped because they're super passionate about it. And so just talking with them about it and seeing this other stuff. And it was a lot of fun too because Jenna and the group started being like, hey, don't tell us. Let's just test Tony's knowledge kind of deal. And so they're like, okay, we are at this GPS location. We're at this pinpoint. Look to that. Like, look over to the west. Where was this scene? And they've got a little pamphlet, and they're like, quizzing me, and it was super fun. And
Aragorn breaking his toe.
Aragorn, yeah. And Jenna actually made that really funny joke. She was like, we're going to be so insufferable now when we watch Lord of the Rings, because now we have all the pinpoints.
Yeah.
So it went really well, the quizzes. I felt really confident. It was really fun. Just one of those side things that people were bringing up. And also, I wasn't being insufferable. It's not like I was like, well, actually, this is when Anduril and the Flame of the West. Like, I wasn't doing anything like that. It was just, whenever there wasn't answers or anything like that. We also went to Weta. We saw all the different, no joke, costumes being used, weapons being used. It was pretty darn cool.
Yeah.
And so they're currently working on some stuff now, so we could be in that room, but our phones had to remain in our pockets. We couldn't take any pictures, all that fun stuff. So the reason why I want to bring it up for you, Mark, is I'm going to ask you this really, really quick. No worries. This is the one thing I didn't get.
Okay.
Across the whole trip.
Okay.
I was trying to write down the questions as much as I could, but it got to a point where I just couldn't keep up. But there's one thing that I didn't get, and it was specifically, if you can remember, in the Fellowship of the Ring, they are on boats, and they're going through basically these windy rivers and the lake, and they stumble upon the Valley of the Kings. Mm-hmm. So we were there at that river pass, seeing everything, and they're like, okay, well, this is the whole thing. They said, look west, see that mountain range? What is that? And I was like, or it wasn't really a mountain range. It was kind of like a cropping. And I was like, oh, that's the Valley of the Kings. I go, okay, who are the two people?
Oh, no.
That it's encompassing.
Yeah.
I had to think about it. I was like, I knew one of them was Isildur.
Right.
Right? I felt pretty confident about that one. And then I thought it was his father, which is Elendil. And so I said it. And then the tour guy was like, well, I'm just messing with you. I don't even have that on my pamphlet. I have no idea who the two people are.
What?
But I do know this fact, though. One of them is actually modeled and sculpted after Aragorn, Viggo Mortensen's, one of his close family members, who at the time of the filming passed away. I can't remember if it was like a grandpa or something. It was some male figure that was very close to him.
That's pretty cool.
Viggo was such a down-to-earth person. There's all these really cool facts, which I was all about the lore facts, but it's even cooler to hear. It's kind of like the behind-the-scenes. You hear a lot, like Viggo breaking his toe and stuff like that, but they had a lot of more personal facts, which I thought that was really kind of cool, where they're saying, like, oh, by the way, yeah, Viggo bought his two horses that they use in Lord of the Rings, right? Mm-hmm. But he also bought horses for some of these people who were on set helping it out. So there's this one girl who actually... They brought this equestrian team to do the Nazgul scene. Remember the river scene I just brought up?
Oh, yeah.
In order to make them look more menacing and to make Arwen far away, they basically did another forced perspective, but it was just all these girls in this equestrian team that they donned in these huge black robes, and they wanted to make it, look all, scary and big, and put the cameras in a certain angle and make the water look really big, so they had small people on a small lake, but if you do the camera right, it's a big lake with big people kind of deal. And it was just so funny because one of the girls really wanted that horse and really fell in love with it, and Viggo bought the horse for her. Bringing that all back, the whole point is Viggo is such a down-to-earth person. Mm-hmm. Peter Jackson and team thought, you know what, we should really do this. They didn't even tell him. It was at the premiere, and that's when Viggo saw it and turned and, thanked Peter and team. Yeah. I thought that was a really cool thing. But, so I had to Google it. Two people that were at the Valley of the Kings is Isildur and Anarion. So Anarion was the one that they modeled after Viggo's relative, where Isildur was, of course, the original actor of Isildur.
And Anarion is he's a brother of Isildur.
Yep. Yeah.
And so we see both. Do we see him in the Rings of Power? I think there's a sister in Ring of Power, isn't there?
I don't know, dude. I watched it once and kind of didn't That was really funny, actually, now that you bring that up. It was the Hobbiton. We had a really amazing tour guide. It was so cool. She was so passionate about everything, and she's telling us about how her boyfriend was actually one of the stunt doubles in Lord of the Rings. Like, he dressed up, in the Ring of Power, dressed up as an orc and all this.
That's pretty cool.
Came home one day in, like, semi-prosthetics and was kind of scared. You can tell that she was bound by her job not to talk ill of the current goings of Lord of the Rings. But you could also tell that she was, like, nodding at certain things, where she was like, yeah, he really enjoyed being on set. You know what I mean? And, like, stuff like that. And she was just kind of making a slight nod to the fact that, they're doing a really good job. They're kind of doing all this really big stuff, but the characters could be fleshed out a little bit more. And she did mention, actually, the characters as well. She was like, yeah, they could be. Man, I just want to stay here for, like, of course, we're in a group, so we can't, we were kind of moving and grooving. But, man, I just wanted to stay for, like, 20 more minutes for every single tour and just sit, ask questions, have them, and just get all this through, because it was really cool. Everyone's so passionate, and it was really a good time, because you could tell that they kind of lit up a little bit too when you get really passionate about it. And so
talk about living the lore right there.
Yeah, exactly.
They're living the lore for their day job.
Exactly. And we are just an audio podcast, but in front of me, so I have a mug from the Green Dragon. This is not the one I drank out of in the Green Dragon.
Okay.
But
is it a pint?
That's a great question. They actually don't. First off, in just New Zealand, dude, everything is milliliters and everything like that. Ounces and everything. I don't even know how much.
I guess he gets
is.
the pint and brie, not in the Green Dragon.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah, it's Prince and Pony.
Yeah.
So Green Dragon, which I actually have my own mead in here. So I brew mead here and there. So I've got some mead, and I really feel like I'm setting the mood right in fantasy when in a ceramic mug that was in Hobbiton in New Zealand.
Yeah.
With my meat in it. It's a pretty cool experience. And then also to my right, I have I bought some honey. So this is New Zealand honey. This is Manuka honey. Very specific. Manuka honey is only it's in New Zealand and Australia, but it's bees that are by this Manuka tree. And it's a tree that is primarily and I think solely in those two areas. And it's really difficult because the bees can only go to that one, and then they produce this really specific type of honey. So it gets a little bit expensive, but I was like, I am not walking out of here without it, kind of deal.
Gonna have to do a blind taste test with this honey and your neighbor's honey.
Yeah, and compare the two. Yeah, my neighbor does honey as well. Don't tell him I bought these, all right?
Yeah.
Normally he's my honey supplier, so I don't want to get my knees broken. So, no, he wouldn't do that. But, so I got some really specific honey, Manuka honey. That's Middle-earth Hobbit themed. I thought that was really cool. I also have a figurine from What a Workshop. This is of Gandalf the Grey.
Not the white, Gandalf.
Not the white, the gray. And more specifically, the Lord of the Rings version. So this is Mines of Moria. He's got the classic crystal in his staff. Glamdring in hand. Really beautiful. Really enjoyed it. Other thing I have is the Lord of the Rings map. This is like no joke parchment. So I got to quickly find a frame for it. It also has a red line showing from where exactly they were from Bag End all the way down to Mount Doom.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed that as well.
It is a really cool map.
It's so cool. It's got like, it's almost like, imagine you have like just white paper and someone pours like coffee on it. It's got that like, that feel, the texture, that look, slightly brown, it's aged. I really enjoy it. I just got to flatten it out because it was in a tube. That was another thing too. We had a 37-hour travel day getting back. So traveling with all this stuff, I had to go small amount, but also strategically pack it to ensure. So the ceramic mug, I didn't want it to break or anything. And the very last thing is to a local meadery. And so it was meadery, honey, beekeeping, apiary, kind of all in one. I don't know exactly what kind of thing you want to call that. It's almost like the farmer's market specifically designed for bees. But I wasn't able to talk to the brewer. He wasn't in. The one Saturday they say he took off was this one. Because he was on holiday. They call it holiday, by the way. Not, vacation, holiday. Right. He was on holiday, and I was like, oh, man. So we just missed him. It stinks. But still, we were able to taste test some mead, so I bought this all the way back. It's the best mead I've ever had. It's the best wine I've ever had. By the way, just for your listeners, mead is just wine. It's just honey wine. So your normal wine is grapes, grape, white, red, all that fun stuff. That's just all grape wine. So there's sugar in grapes. Yeast comes in, eats that sugar, you get your wine. Mead, all it does is it takes the sugars from honey, converts that over to alcohol with the yeast, and so it's the same. Someone says mead, and they kind of look at me funny. I'm like, it's just wine, it's just honey wine. So, but yeah, so we got this, and so I don't know when we're gonna drink it, but honestly, it'd probably be a pretty darn special occasion because we only got one bottle, and yeah, this is a pretty special moment for getting this bottle. So yeah, overall, I would highly recommend anyone out there thinking about doing it. It's totally worth it. It was such a beautiful area. It was so nice. People are so nice, and the information and everything you can do there was so fantastic. I really cannot speak highly on it. So it was a lot of fun. Just make sure you're ready for that drive, right? You're on the other side of the road.
Yep.
And the passenger seat is the driver's seat, right?
So weird. I can't even.
So there's multiple times where, no joke, I would get in the car, driver's side, our U.S. driver's side, and I go to hands on the wheel 10 and 2, and I'm like, what is going on? And then, but yeah, no, dude, super fun time. I would highly recommend it. So, Mark, feel like we touched everything? Feel like we're good?
I think we're good. Yeah. So I think that's it. Thanks for listening, guys. Please reach out to us with questions, mix-up ideas, what-if ideas. We promise we will have some of those again in the future. I know it's been a little while, but we will have them, so please reach out.
So yeah, if you do reach out, that will be on Instagram or X, Twitter at Live Laugh Lore Pod. And then you can also email us at livelaughLorePod@gmail.com. That's livelaughLorePod, Pod, at gmail.com.
Thanks, guys.